Hello. Hello, everybody. This is Philip Carr-Gomm. This is Tea with the Druid, number 245, brought to you by the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. It's lovely to be with you. I can see lots of you have gathered in the clearing in the Sacred Grove already, from frosty Crouch End and Cupar in Scotland and Washington and Dallas, Texas and shivery Slough and North Carolina and Lincoln and Michigan. It's so lovely. Snowy Berlin. It's snowing. But Stephanie and I were walking in the High Weald near Tunbridge Wells yesterday, and it started to snow. It was extraordinary. Very brief, sort of sleet, snow, and then it went, and it was actually lovely. Ben in St. Lucia. Aha. Yes. Fantastic to see you. And Luru in the Czech Republic, and Lisa in Australia, and Pagan Jester in sunny Sweden. Great. Okay, and Elaine in Heckington. That sounds like somewhere up north somehow. Leiden in the Netherlands. Good, lovely to see you. Let's just take a few moments just to sort of settle, to switch from whatever has been happening for us during the day, just to being gathered around the fire together, gather around the virtual fire and being here and being together. And just tune in and just get a word or a feeling that comes up. How are you feeling? Are you feeling settled, or are you feeling frazzled? How are you feeling? And just type it in as a way of sharing where you're at, how you're feeling. Recognizing that feelings change, they come and go, and you might be feeling something completely different straight after having typed it in. So, but it's tired. More settled, even blissful at times, David. Uncomfortable, challenged, relieved, chilled, sleepy. Pascal, can't shake the heavy energy today. Energized and productive, melancholy, tired, happy to be with you all, inspired, feeling blessed. Feeling calm. There's lots of snow around. Feeling calm, though. We're getting lots of snow tonight. There's lots of snow around. Refreshed, very stressed. Content. Excited to see the aurora of the as well on the west coast of Scotland. In Sussex, some people were spotting what's it called, the aurora borealis in the sky, some lights. It was on the news this evening. Fortunate, happy to be here. I'm a new mum to a 5-month-old boy. Congratulations, Vika. Tired and completely happy. Yes, you must be feeling wonderful having had a baby. Confused, focused, agitated, hopeful. That's a really interesting mix of feelings, isn't it? Very inspired, very happy. Great, fantastic, good. Well, one of the things that I've talked about this in a number of teas in the last few months is the question of mental well-being. And, it's really come to me, and particularly with the work I've been doing over the last 2 years, the mental health benefits of druidry, of many things, but also of druidry. So I've written about that, and I'm exploring that. I think it's just a really fascinating thing. And on the one hand, there are a number of different activities within druidry that have, of course, nothing to do with druidry, but just happen to come together in a spiritual path like druidry, and they stand alone, but they also synergize with each other. So it's not a question of plugging druidry as a sort of panacea for mental health at all. It's a question of saying, isn't it interesting that a lot of people who are into druidry find that it benefits their mental health? And what are the features and characteristics of that? And one mental health champion who our daughter Sophie drew my attention to the other day is Prince Harry, who is a great champion for mental health. And in his book Spare, his autobiography that's been very controversial, very early on at the beginning, he talks about enjoying being in Balmoral up in Scotland. And he said, to me, Balmoral was always simply paradise, a cross between Disney World and some sacred Druid grove. So perhaps even there's some sort of recognition of the value that Druidry can bring. And what I want to do now is introduce you to a friend and an author who for some time was living in the little house in our garden, which Anna, you may remember Anna Richardson, who came on to tea a few weeks ago talking about children's forests. She lived in a little house in the garden, and Jim lived in a little house too. And he's already written a wonderful book about the road protest campaigns of he'll probably correct me here, but I think the 90s, maybe early in the 21st century, I think. And his new book is being launched today with a crowdfunding project. And I'd love you to meet him. And I've finished reading his book, and it's fantastic. It's a great read. And so I'm now, through the magic of the internet, going to press a button, and Jim is going to appear as if by magic. There you are, Jim. Lovely to see you. I must unmute you so we can hear you speak. There, your mic's on now. And so tell me, Jim, your book is called The Shrine. Mm-hmm. Tell me what it's about. Tell everybody what it's about. What's it about?
Sure, yeah. Well, it's called The Shrine Way. Small correction. But yeah, it's essentially an account of a walk I took over the course of a couple of years along the Pilgrim's Way, which is a route that runs through the hills of southern England. It goes from Winchester to Canterbury. It's quite an old route. There's a lot of controversy with its history in terms of how many medieval pilgrims actually walked it, but it is an existing route that anyone can walk now. So it follows the North Downs for quite a lot of the way. The North Downs obviously it's an ancient track, so people are walking that for a very long time. Definitely since the Bronze Age, probably much earlier than that. And there were various names for that stretch. The Harrow Way was the name of that, continuing on into Stonehenge before that route dropped down in towards Winchester, when Winchester became more important in later years. But originally it went all the way along, straight line from the North Downs to Salisbury Plain. And it had various names, but one of the names was what I presume is pronounced something like the Headveg. I imagine that's an Anglo-Saxon term, and that translates as the Shrine Way. So that was one of the alternative names for the Harrow Way. So that helps give the book its title. But it's also very much concerned with the medieval history of a route and Thomas Becket and his story with Henry II. And for me, that was a kind of interesting device to look at questions around faith and Christianity. So that was also explains part of the title, because obviously there was a big movement of international pilgrims going to Thomas Becket's shrine after his martyrdom, and the shrine was very important. So that's another explanation of the title.
Exactly. What I loved about the book was the way you wove together at least four themes. I mean, on the one hand, there's the story of Thomas Becket, and that forms a kind of one thread of continuity through the book, his story and how it became a shrine and a place of pilgrimage. And then there's, of course, your account of the journey, the physical account of the journey. And I always find books about walking so easy to read, because you're just there, particularly those of us who love walking. So an account of, you get a sort of vicarious pleasure just by reading somebody else's journey. But in addition to that, you're doing two other things, which I think is so interesting. One is you're exploring your spirituality, your spiritual life, and you explain how you were raised as a Roman Catholic, and then you became really interested in paganism and druidry, and then you wanted to sort of explore your your Christianity, really, or your relationship to Christianity. And so that's a theme that runs through the book as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's one of the things I was definitely looking at. I was coming back into some of the more Christian faith of my youth, but asking myself questions about how I could best find my way back into that, how I felt with my relationship with the church, more traditional Christian practices. There's a lot I could say about that, but I mean, for me, pilgrimage was quite interesting. There was a memorable time I walked down the Cotswolds Way, which is a really beautiful walk along that ridge, and that ends up in Bath Abbey, and I hadn't really realised it was going to end in Bath Abbey, but when I did so, it felt like something clicked into place. So having walked as much as I generally can, sort of earlier on in my life, that became more kind of grafted onto pilgrimage. It was, I've always walked. It's a way to shift things. It's a great thing to do, roots you in the landscape. But at some point it became grafted onto that notion of a walk with intent, which essentially is what any pilgrimage is. And that led on to explore how I felt about, my Christian upbringing.
Exactly. And then, as if those sort of three themes weren't enough, there's another whole theme that runs through the book, which is the effect walking has on your mental well-being, your mental health, and maybe you can share a little bit about that, because I was very touched by the way you talked about your sensitivity to all the suffering that exists in the world. And how overwhelming that can seem at times, and how walking helped you to cope and to get back to some sense of sort of balance and stability.
I mean, I've always found walking really beneficial. I'm like, just return to what I was saying earlier, that any walk can shift things. So I always found them generally, really the potential of benevolent transformation is really strong. So it's always been something that I've always come back in a much better state of mind than when I set out. And definitely some of the experiences of long walks have been really interesting and profound. So, looking for ways forward, having done, documented, you mentioned 9 Miles, the book about Newbury. I've documented what happened to me there in terms of my health and the effect of campaigning, and having done various stints of other kinds of campaigning over the years. For me, it reached a point, it's like, what's the best way forward? Where can I best put my energies? What's going to really help bring about the kind of, definitely for me and hopefully on a wider level, the kind of change I was really hoping to see. So pilgrimage has always really got results for me, and it's always brought great peace of mind. So it's been a thing I've tried to adhere to, because the benefits have been really tangible.
That's fantastic. And of course, we had Will Parsons on a few weeks back, who's also written a book about this same route, hasn't he? And he covers this theme too. And the British Pilgrimage Trust does really good work in promoting the concept of pilgrimage.
Absolutely.
So it's like you're onto something. I think this is really something.
I mean, I think.
I'm losing you, Jim.
Sorry, I lost you there for a moment. Okay, I don't know if you can still hear me.
I can still hear you,
Yeah, I think there's another route that goes to Canterbury you can follow along. It goes south along the South Downs, which has been revived quite in large part by the British Pilgrimage Trust. So that's another option. You can go along South Downs and then go north across the Weald, or possibly the Romsey Marches, sort of way east anyway. The route Pilgrim's Way over Bristol Bow goes along up what's now Swithin's Way, up one of the river valleys up to Farnham, and then it joins the North Downs Way. So the North Downs Way and the Pilgrim's Way are sort of synonymous. So yeah, there's a distinction there, but they both go to Canterbury from Winchester, so they're both good to follow.
Okay, and have you got us a little excerpt you can read?
Yeah, sure. Bear with me one second. I was going to read. There's just a couple of things. There's a prayer that I was given a copy of on the start of a pilgrimage I did one time, which I think the pilgrimage is really, really pertinent. So I'm just going to read an excerpt of that out briefly. It's called Prayer of the Pilgrims. Lord, be for us a companion on our journey, the guide on our intersections, the strengthening during fatigue, the fortress in danger, the resource on our itinerary, the shadow in our heat, the light in our darkness, the consolation during dejection, and the power of our intention.
That's beautiful. That's lovely. Thank you so much.
So I've
Maybe
always found that quite pertinent.
that yes. Did you write that yourself?
No, that was just given out to on pilgrims on a route I did.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it's just
Okay. Yeah. No, that's
quote from that. But I'll just read out briefly. This is just like one of the opening passages about Winchester. I thought it's appropriate sort of beginning of things. So I'll just read that quickly. I left town in a kind of heady dream. The city was already new before I got there, full of import, full of departure for a new life, a different place, but still the same as ever, which is to say a kind of holy ground, however well trodden. I felt at home in a way that I hadn't expected. A mob of foreign students thronged around the Butter Cross. A man in a sleeping bag sat playing a concertina in a covered way, slowly and tentatively, making the place feel both provincial and central, as though travellers were coming in from all around the broad green hills I knew so well, covered with the feet of kindred souls. I was aware of Winchester's history in an unspecified way. Many of the finer points eluded me, but I had a sense of its centrality, antiquity, and peace. Its central streets, its hinterland of lanes and greens, waterways and colleges formed a familiar ground, a haven, a hub, an old destination, and today a new place of departure. It felt like a good place to start.
Lovely. Lovely. Well, thank you. And if I can read a piece too, one of my favorite bits from the book. The bit you read was just towards the beginning. This is getting towards the end. It goes, visions for a better world remain a constant for humanity, even if they have been battered at times by stark reality or compromised by cynicism or blind fervor, as if we've lost all sense of history or hope. But life grinds on just as it can soar, and we can seek to serve it by the things we know that work. Pilgrimage, I knew, held just this currency. Sometimes the best we can do is pray for peace and clarity, to begin to make our own gardens and lands a little more holy. Whatever our spiritual makeup, whatever systems we pronounce or eschew or cling to bloody-mindedly, or from the bedrock of belief, it seems one of the best things anyone can do is to remember how to pray. And walking for me is the best way of praying I know. Structure and structures can help with all this, and this old cathedral is just one such structure. Generations of devotion carved out in a still living stone. Cathedrals still people my dreams, vast and impossible seeming at times, built of straw or packed earth like African temples, of golden stone or coloured glass and always lit up. The monoliths of religion stand there as a choice if we feel moved to make it. But for all the reforms, reformations, counter-reformations, the sweeping away of religion itself in some quarters, sanctity itself can never die. Ultimately, all the theories, the doctrines, come down to one thing: the presence of love in the world. I think that's just fabulous and fantastic. And Jim, I'm going to put in now, I've put it in already, but I'm going to put in the link for the crowdfunding campaign for the book. I think the books, if people make a donation of, it's about £13 is the cost of the book, isn't it? I mean, they can make more, and in the the usual crowdfunding way, but otherwise it's like buying a book online in advance, as it were. Thank you so much, Jim. I hope you come and see us again in the little garden. You can see
I'd love to.
The little house you lived in, and
there again, yeah, fond memories.
Yeah, and you stay online. We're going to. We always finish Tea with a Druid with a meditation.
Sure.
So you're welcome to join us in that. I'll and see you again soon.
Okay, thanks for the bless you. Thanks very much.
Right. Well, lovely. How lovely to be with Jim for that, and what beautiful writing. And with the stage set with that writing, let's go into a little meditation if you want to, and if you'd like to join me. And you might like to close your eyes to better concentrate on yourself, or you don't have to. You can just lower your gaze or look at the screen. And becoming aware of the screen in front of you, the phone or the laptop or the desktop, and the walls around you. Just allow yourself to have that awareness, but also to let your awareness enter this liminal space where you start to feel that you're in the sacred grove, in a clearing in the woods. These clearings that are beloved of Druids and of many people who love the forest and nature. To find yourself seated by a little fire, and let's use the power of intention. The power of pilgrimage is one where we will set off with an intention to go to a particular place, and we can do a tiny little pilgrimage now that'll just take us 5 minutes. Let's set our intention to go to a sacred spring that lies just a little way from the sacred grove. Simple as that. Just to seek refreshment, to restore our spirits. And so to do that, we begin, paradoxically, not by leaving, but by staying, by sitting in the grove and just enjoying this feeling of being in the woods, sensing the earth beneath us, bringing stability and grounding. All the life in the earth, all the energy of the earth. And we take in a deep breath, and as we breathe out, we allow all our tensions to drop into the earth, to be transformed in the earth. And as we breathe in the air of the forest, all those wonderful essential oils that the trees exude that are so healing for us. Breathing in the energy of the forest and sensing the reality of these living beings around us, the trees, who are rooted in the earth but reach up into the sky. And then we, in being aware of the sky, breathe in the energy of the sky, sensing that clear energy of the sky flowing into our beings, meeting the energy of the earth within the center of ourselves. And then we remember our intention that to go and seek the sacred spring. And there's a little path leading from the sacred grove, and you can just imagine coming towards that path if you feel moved to do this. And just walking through the woods a little way, sensing the creatures in the woods, maybe the sound of birds, just this sense of living nature all around us. And you find you're coming to another little clearing, and there is the spring. Some rocks, and there's water bubbling out of the rocks into a pool. And just approach it very slowly, tuning in to the spirit of this spring, the sense of different energy that's around the spring. and just be open to the spirit of the spring. Maybe ask for permission to be there, to approach a sense of humility and reverence. And then if you feel you can approach the spring, that you receive the blessing of the spirit of the spring, just dip your hands into the water, and you might even see your fingers and your hands as they go into the water, this clear crystalline water. And just lift some up and bathe your brow. And as you bathe your brow and your imagination, just sense the energy of the water flowing into your being, into your energy field, blessing you, blessing your body, bringing you health, bringing you a sense of calm and healing. And then lower your hand or hands again into the water and just cup some of the water in your hand and drink in the water now and feel the cool energy of the water as you swallow it, going into your being, into your body. May I be healed by this water. May I be blessed by this water. May this water bring me new life, energy, balance and calm, healing and vitality. And then just imagine that you step back a little from the spring and thank the spirit of the spring. You might find a gesture like touching your heart with your hand and bowing, however it feels right for you to give thanks to the spirit of the spring, to the spring herself. And then knowing you can return to this place whenever you wish, even when you're lying in bed this evening, just as you drift off to sleep, you can return to this spring whenever you like. In your meditations, you can return. But for now, you take the journey back through the forest, through the woods, back to the sacred grove. And when you come back into the grove, you feel the presence perhaps of others in the grove too. All of us together here at this time, seated in the circle, seated around the fire, close to the earth, at one with the trees and with the sky and with the earth beneath us. A blessing on our lives, a blessing on all life, and a blessing on the land. And having sensed this blessing, gradually allow your awareness of the sacred grove to fade as you become aware of being seated with the four walls around you, the floor beneath you, the ceiling above you, and become aware of the computer or screen in front of you. And whenever you feel ready, you open your eyes. So, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to bring our guest Jim back, who stayed with us, and we're going to both say goodbye to you. And it's lovely to read your comments coming in now. And Jim, I think you can read the comments too. They come in on the right hand panel, and you can just a little tip for you, Jim. when you finish, when we say goodbye,
Yeah,
if you keep the screen up,
sure.
the comments are still there, so you can read them at your leisure. You can as
Okay.
soon as you quit out of this page, you'll lose them, and the only way you can find them again is to go into all the different YouTube channels and Facebook channels, which is hard.
Right.
So if you want to here, they're all aggregated on the side here, you see.
Brilliant. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Jim, for being with us. Thank you for your book, and much love to everybody, and see you again next week. Okay, bye then.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Bye.